Fan's on. My fan moved. I gotta go fix that. Okay.
Yes.
Are you there, Harry?
Oh, yes.
Hey, Harry, Stuart here.
Hi, Stuart. Hi, Kyle.
It's true. Sorry. Here. Sorry. Yeah. Awesome. So I guess normally the way I usually like to start these is, did you have any specific questions that you wanted to like make sure that we cover? Or
So yeah, I'm worried about some like wording
Mhm.
and so since I added the active international one by myself, and that's the one, yeah, I have issue with.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess first thing I see is typo here. I'm guessing.
Huh.
I'm guessing it should be a T there. International. Is that right?
That's fair.
And that just messed everything up. Okay, there you go. Summer associate. Okay, 6 to current. Okay, proof capabilities and forecasting. Target. Assisted with master tables. Relevant process for ingesting vendors. That looks good. Learn Jira task management. So I guess the main thing that sticks out to me here is this first bullet point. It seems like a lot of words for me to not understand what you did.
Oh,
So they're all very vague to me, like improved capabilities in forecasting, media targeting, media performance analytics, digital media yield optimizations, business intelligence solutions at like a big firm for new model inputs. Like, how did you do that? Like, what did you actually do?
so compared the algorithm between like among active international and spectrum and cox and see the difference. And so basically we were um, assisting the media team to maximize the benefit, like maximize the benefits of our customer by how to say that, by improving the impressions of the audience. So we're trying to assist the our the clients to make their advertising more efficient.
Okay, how did you go about doing that? Any specific methods or tools?
Um, we use Tableau. Um, I don't know exactly about the algorithm behind it, but we are we're comparing our algorithm with like Spectrum and Cox, like the
How did you compare
other big firms.
Like how did you compare them? Like what metrics or visualizations or tables did you try and use to make that comparison?
Um, yeah, this is a good question. So we asked data from Spectrum and Cox, and uh, I don't know.
Mhm. So
I'm
like
not sure.
that's what I would try and focus on is figure out like go back and try and remember the details of what you did. My usual recommendation for these types of bullets
Yeah.
is you want to cover 3 things in each of your bullets. Say what you did, how you did it, and what was the value or the outcome or the achievement. But that last part, the achievement or the or the like what was the value or outcome, that should be the emphasis. That's really the meat of what each of your bullet points should that should be the meat of your bullet points. So but you still want to say like what it was you did and how you did it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
This one reads to me as a bit too general, and to me the problem though is, as a hiring manager, if I read this, I still have no idea from your resume what you actually did, and so the problem is I'm not going to bother scheduling an interview if I have no idea from your resume what you've done. So you want to be a little bit more specific there, but you don't want to be too specific that you're like giving a bunch of details. So the how can be like pretty simple, is like, you know, maybe you used like a certain statistical, like a few statistical methods that you want to call out, or maybe you did like data visualizations with Tableau, is a how that you might want to call out here. And it also, I didn't see Tableau on here. So like that's a key skill that is really useful that you have that's missing in your resume. So if you add it as part of your how in a bullet, that kind of takes care of making sure that you show that you have that skill.
Mhm.
So Harry, for example, improved capabilities in forecasting, media targeting, media performance analytics, digital media yield optimization, and business intelligence solutions. Okay, this is all great. Now, each of those potentially has a metric associated with it, something you can quantify. So improved capabilities in forecasting, how? Improved capabilities, in what way was that measured? How did you know it was improved enough to the point where you could say that you did here on the resume? You improved capabilities in forecasting. Okay, just that by itself. How do you know? Where are you looking to see the improvement was made? And then how did you improve the capability in forecasting? So to Kyle's point, if we just took that and we said, okay, chunk of text which described the outcome or result, and then you said by using Tableau, for example, that would be actually a pretty good bullet point if you emphasize the result, and then by visualization using Tableau, something like that would be enough of the how so that you could have a really solid bullet point. So like most resume development, we have to kind of dig a little bit deep if we want to actually have a decent bullet point. We have to dig, we have to know what it was we were doing, what the outcome was intended to be. Here, the outcome is intended to be an improvement in forecasting and an improvement in media targeting. Okay. So can you comment there, just say on forecasting, like, Harry, how do you know that forecasting improved? Or do you not know? Oh,
I think we lost.
he was so bored that he just left. Like, oh my God, this is terrible.
I will say doing my own resume, reviewing my own and editing is one of the most terrible things I feel like I've had to do as a professional. I absolutely hate doing my own. So I
Yeah.
do get it.
We understand.
It's fine.
Sorry, the Wi-Fi was down.
Yeah,
All right. So let's just start with, like, I don't know how much you heard of what I was saying, Harry, but let's just start with improved capabilities in forecasting. Did that use Tableau?
Yes,
Okay,
but
cool.
I didn't manipulate anything on Tableau. So yeah, I just record. So I just copy the results to a deck, and make a
Okay.
presentation to the SVP.
Okay. So in as regards improved capabilities in forecasting, how can you describe kind of how in general do you know that there was an improved capability in forecasting? What gives you that feeling? Did someone say it was improved? Do you have an oral confirmation of that? Like someone just said, hey, we improved our capabilities in forecasting. Or was there some specific email?
I copy it from the content of the role.
Okay. So this is a job
Oh.
description. I see.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's not going to work. Right. So it could work. It could be guidance, but it can't be the bullet point.
Okay.
So result by action taken. So in our training, we're always talking about each bullet point follows the format result by action taken, which is consistent with what Kyle is saying here in slightly different language, where we want to emphasize the outcome and the result and feature that, and the how can be less specific. So in this case, can we just kind of step back from all these bullet points for a second and just chat about, like, what are some things that you got done? Not by yourself personally, because maybe all you did was maybe all you did was the equivalent of pouring coffee and making photocopies this summer. That's totally okay. But if those photocopies were in the service of doing a big deal, or those coffees that were poured for your managing director or your vice president, which led to deals being closed or improvements in certain metrics, those are also your accomplishments as well. So what can you recall as far as what were the biggest outcomes that the company achieved, Active International or your boss or that team? Were there any things that they were working on this summer that you may have participated in?
I think number 3,
Right.
storefront.
Okay. So that was that building the storefront, or what was that?
It's like so we rebuilt a form that for internal use, like if there's a new project and turn in the needs and requirements, and so that makes, I don't know, like how to make um so it's kind of like to make the project description clearer compared to the old version of the
Well, this sounds like it's a workflow process improvement
right.
project. Okay. So there was one element of your summer, which was using Jira to accelerate a workflow or accelerate a process or improve a process. Okay. That's one thing that we can talk about. What are some other things that your team was working on this summer that you might have heard about?
So the third bullet point is the one we finished during this summer, and the rest of the projects are still ongoing.
Right. So, Harry, this is really important, and I say this in my trainings a lot regarding bullet points, and that your accomplishments are not limited to what you have already just done in that summer. So there are going to be accomplishments that have happened, that are happening now, and that will happen in the future. So what are they?
Sorry, please.
Okay, so what potentially could happen in the future thanks to your participation? So, potential launch, one of your accomplishments, strange as it sounds, because it sounds like a past tense, could be launching of potential, like, of new platform that could potentially capture, 20% of new market or whatever. So what, in preparation for this resume review, and part of the homework that we might send you back with is to actually find out what your company has been working on. So if we look at just the job description bullet again, forecasting, media targeting, media performance analytics, digital media yield optimization. Okay. Did you hear about any of that this summer? Did you touch on anything relating to those topics? Like media targeting?
I can yes, definitely there is, but yeah, I don't. So for that project, it's more complicated than I thought. So I'm not fully under
So one of the things that
I don't fully understand like what we're doing on that project. But what I do know is like for the second bullet point, the master table. So since um different departments in Active International are using like their own system for storing data, and so probably they have like this for the same, the name of the variables are different, but probably they're meaning the same thing. So
yeah.
so we're creating this master table, the central lookup table, to put out the data from different as a glue of different systems in Active. So once we type in the input, for example, is one client and put out all the data from different systems.
I think that was pretty clear from the bullet point. It's a pretty common task that people encounter in IT, so like they'll be familiar with it based on the way you wrote it. In regards to like the outcomes, kind of like what Stuart was saying, like I usually tell people, like as long as you left on good terms with your team or your manager or your supervisor, you can always email them, like reach out to them, like, hey, like what were the outcomes or measures of value or KPIs or OKRs for this project that I can use to on my resume, and they can kind of get it. And it could even be estimates. They don't need to be exact. You're never going to be asked, you said you saved the company 10.2 million. How did you know it was 10.2? Like no one cares. But you do need to be able to justify it and explain how you got it. So if you say like, oh, it's just what I figured it was, that's not a good answer. But if you want to say like this came, like, we didn't finish completely get to the point where we could measure the KPI. However, I reached out to my manager after the fact, and when it got into production, we saw that it performed at this level or whatever, and that's completely fine. You just need to be able to justify the measures that you're giving and explain how you got it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
Since I'm still I'm still
Oh yeah,
helping them. So
I would definitely just go ask, be like, hey, I want to put some measures of value on my resume. What are some key points that I can put here?
okay.
And I do that regularly with like teams I have. If I finish a project, like a couple of months later, I'll reach out to the product owner and be like, hey, just so I can summarize this for my own records, like what are the key KPIs that and OKRs that we have for this, and how did we establish success and measure it? And then I kind of take that and then add it to like a little document for the end of the year for me. And so like I've never had a manager that wasn't willing to help with that. And then if they're swagging some estimates, then that's you got it from them. You didn't do it. You didn't make them up yourself. Um,
Yeah.
checking reporting inaccurate information. Can you tell me a little bit more about this? How you did that? How did you get 99.5%?
From my boss. He said it.
Checking reports inaccurate. Do you use any tools for that?
Excel.
So, one of the things I would recommend, I forgot to mention up here, is I like that you have email, phone number. I would probably also add LinkedIn.
Okay.
I don't think you need to have like the full LinkedIn though, but you could do like IN/, and every recruiter knows that you're LinkedIn. Other thing I would say is if you have a GitHub, definitely put the GitHub there. It never hurts to have a GitHub there. No one expects to see like someone contributing every day. but
Mhm.
it shows a confidence that you're willing to share your code with others. And the people that have that are the ones that kind of quickly learn on the team because they're willing to share their code with their team members. The ones that like are more like, I don't want to share my code, it's not perfect yet, are the ones that kind of stagnate and don't really go anywhere and then end up having to leave. So you want to kind of show that you're open to getting feedback.
Okay.
So what did you, I think this kind of goes back to kind of the same issues. These are all kind of vague. It's not very clear to me. Like the only thing I get out of it is that you advise someone, but it's advising is a very vague term. So I guess like, can you tell me more about what you did during this experience?
Harry, I thought we had worked on these bullet points in the past.
Yes.
I mean, what's going on here, bro?
So that's exactly the same. Like I didn't change anything.
Hmm.
I do
Yeah.
like this one. It's like here's an outcome.
That's the outcome. Yeah. I mean, we talked about the decision. That's the outcome. Why is it hidden down in the third bullet point?
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure I had done something with this in times past where we were featuring that. So that's why I'm wondering, like, maybe
I
you're
think
drawing from an old resume or something. I don't know. But let me shut up here.
I wouldn't jump down to this one though. Improved user experience by reducing server error rate. How did you reduce the server error? Do you remember? I guess it's a long time ago.
yeah. I'm thinking about maybe taking that off.
So overall, the one thing I would say, I know there's some like spots that still need to like be filled in. But my usual advice for people is you need to either have it on either one page or it needs to fill one page or 2 pages. You can't have like one and a few. Um, it always needs to completely fill. Just because when they're looking at it, a bunch of blank space to them is like a lack of material.
Okay.
Even though it's more than one page, they're gonna see this giant blank spot and be like, "This is empty." My recommendation as a BS student, try and fit it on one page best you can. You're using 12 font, which is a little large, I would say. You could go down to 11. It's not going to
Okay.
help too much, but it'll give you some extra space. Your margins look good. There's a lot of space up here, though, that I think you can use. So if you want to change your margins at the top, I recommend that. Same with the bottom. You could probably cut that down. But yeah, I would try and fit this on one page. The skills, or let me ask, do you have any job descriptions or job postings that you were interested in?
Oh yes.
Can you can you like find one and send in the chat?
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, that works.
I have one right now. So here's the one I'm applying right now. Let me go back.
Yeah, can you scroll down to, oh yeah, job posting. Okay. Data analyst.
You want me to go
Keep
down?
scrolling. Yeah, keep scrolling down. Yeah, that's good. Can you scroll down more? Okay. This one's a little odd, I think, to me, is like they're not calling out many skills or Like their basic qualifications are like 3 bullets. I think that's probably the fewest I've seen in a very long time, even for entry level. They're usually a lot more detailed than that. They do call out Python, SQL, R.
I don't know
So
what are these, but I do know Python, SQL, and R.
yeah, my guess is since they put those first, those are the most important. They're not going to find many entry people with experience in SAS and SPSS. Database though is another thing, so I would highlight database stuff in yours. So looking at yours, you've got R, SQL, Java, Python. The way I would recommend doing this is the skills that you see here, anything that they call out needs to be like, you want to make it impossible for them to not see it on your resume. So right now they list Python, SQL, R as the first ones. You've got R, SQL, Excel, Java, Python. So I would actually move Python way to the front. That's the first thing they called out. It's probably what they're going to be looking for.
Oh,
And then follow it with the same ones, R and SQL, because that's what they're looking for. They're also looking for database experience. So any sort of databases that you've worked with, I would call them out here. Have you worked, like what types of databases have you worked with?
SQL Server.
Okay, yeah, so that's a great one. I would, call out MS SQL Server. And then it's, the reason is you're not saying that you're only limited to that. You're saying you have experience doing this stuff and like you have actual experience with this database. From there, it's a lot easier to go to any other SQL database. They're really not very different. But it shows that you have experience in one of them. When people write just SQL and they don't put a database, it's kind of like, well, I did some online tutorial, but I've never actually really worked with a database.
Okay.
So I would definitely do that.
So yes, I will change SQL to SQL Server.
Oh no, I would still have SQL on there. SQL is the language, SQL Server is the database.
Okay.
So yeah,
As bullet points, I will mention that. Sorry, please go on.
Oh, sorry. You mind if I share my screen?
I'm sorry.
Oh, do you mind if I share my screen?
Oh, yes.
Let me try this. So like up here, you're listing skills. So like I would put Python first here. SQL, Python, R, SQL, and then probably even just call out MS SQL Server right after that. Because you want to make sure that it is zero chance that they will miss that.
Okay.
Normally, I will say that you'll see, but the similar principle applies though when you're reading the job descriptions. Most job descriptions that I think you'll see, at least in my experience, have a lot more detail than that one you just that was oh shit, sorry. That was a pretty ambiguous one for job postings. They're probably gonna have a hard time sifting through all of the ones that they have because they weren't detailed enough on their end. Let's see. I would actually probably recommend having more skills in here. I'm sure you have a lot more skills than you're thinking about. Skills aren't just tools. So they can also be like methods. So maybe even like, like A/B testing, that's a skill. Exploratory data analysis. Oh, A/B testing is a skill. Exploratory data analysis is a skill. Machine learning is a skill. Like these are all skills that like you could have. I didn't see them called out on your on that job description, but you'll probably see them in a bunch of others. So like my usual recommendation for like how to define which skills to include is find a couple, like 24 job postings that are similar in the fact that like they're all for the same type of job. So for you, like for this instance, it would be data analyst. I would not combine data analyst, data science, machine learning engineer. Those are all very different jobs. But find like a couple dozen like data analyst positions that you think are similar and something that you want to apply for, and then make like a list of all the skills that you see in them and rank them from like most common to least common. Those most common ones are the ones you definitely want to have in your resume. And then it also serves as a greater base resume for you to edit from one to another, because you already have most of the skills that they're probably going to be listing. So when you're editing from one resume, one job description to another, for example, when we say, let's move Python to the front here, it'll be a lot easier for you to do.
Oh, yeah. The reason why I put R and SQL first at the front, because I'm most familiar with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. That's what everyone does. But here's the thing is, you're not making any claim in this resume that if you put Python first, you're not making a claim that it's your best. That's their job to judge you in a technical interview. If they fail to do that, that's on them. That's not on you. And so you want to make sure that you're just highlighting the skills that they're looking for, so that they at least give you a chance. Nowhere in your resume are you saying you're best with Python.
Okay. That makes sense.
But with it over here, there's a strong chance that I'm gonna just not even see it.
Okay.
Buried. I would say also another thing for size. I think it looks a little odd to me is your headers are quite large. Like there's a lot of dead space here. You could probably like with this line break, there might be a way to get that. I think you're losing basically an entire paragraph with all of these. I'm not saying you should get rid of them, but like that's a lot of dead space that you're losing. Any questions that you have? I want to make sure that you have.
No, I feel like yeah.
Harry, would it be helpful to craft an email to your boss now to request?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't that might be a good use of our time now that Kyle's here. Why don't we just get that email sent? Why don't you open up your email editor and let's, at the very last step, you can add your boss's email address itself so we don't prematurely send the email. But let's open up an email browser editor here and get that email sent off.
I'm always paranoid that I'm going to do that.
Subject.
Yeah, so subject, right. So we could a draft subject could be takeaways, or let's see. Question about my experience so far. I mean, we'll change that, but just write that down. Question about my experience so far. Okay, that's terrible. We'll change it, but okay. So dear name, whatever. Hope all is going well with you this week. I don't know how often you email this guy. So if you haven't talked with him, then you might want to say that. If not, you just say, hey, dear Brett, you did? Okay. So dear Brett, I have a question about how to update my resume to reflect my summer internship in the best light possible. Internship in the best light possible.
The best
light, LIGHT, possible. Period. And then next paragraph. And say before, could you guide me on how best to summarize my experience? Could you please guide me on how best to summarize my experience? Question mark.
How best?
Yeah, how best to summarize my experience. And then the next paragraph would be, I understand that in the job description, this role was to improve, just copy and paste that bullet point
Was
to, and then whatever that bullet point is, improve ... What was that ? ...
copy all
Yeah,
three
just-
bullet
just-
points down.
I mean, it's not necessarily from that, right? Like you had received an actual email from this guy, which was
Yeah.
telling you what you were going to be doing. So why don't we use that instead of your,
So you mean forward that email?
not necessarily, not necessarily. But where did you get that? You just said you copied and pasted content from the job description. So where did that content come from? No, and no, why don't you have a look at this? Why don't you show this to, please show this to Kyle so he can have some background here.
Oh, here, right here.
Okay, so could you read that to Kyle, please? Or let Kyle read that. Kyle, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
So, okay, yeah.
So we need to, I would say, Kyle, I'm not sure exactly how you might approach this. I might copy and paste this whole content here and just say, could we have a, well, copy and paste that content into your email.
To
Do the following, was to do the following.
to do the
And then you copy and paste that. Nope, don't want any recipients right now. All right. Okay. I don't know if we need all of that. And then could you, okay, but copy and paste that anyway. All right, so work to improve. And then below that, before the next bullet point, maybe in a different color, maybe blue, could we discuss examples? Could we discuss an example or case study where I participated in this ? Kyle, do you think I'm on the right track here?
Yeah, I think this is good. I like having the job description at the bottom as a reference mostly.
Okay.
I would flat out just ask rather than saying, "Can you guide me?" I would say that and then follow it up and just be like, "Are there any KPIs and OKRs that I can report on?"
Okay, so let's just do that different. Hey, for now, right now, I'd like, since Kyle's here, delete this whole content. Delete it all.
everything.
Except for, just delete that. Okay. And then, and that, could you guide me? Please also delete that. Could you please guide me? Let's use, let's use Kyle's exact wording. So delete that, I understand as well. All right, so Kyle, why don't you dictate what should happen next?
That's possible. Can you provide any, can you please provide any KPIs and OKRs?
KPI.
Yeah, and OKR.
Okay.
I'd probably say and or, because often you'll use one or the other, but and then OKR or plural for the OKRs. There's an S there, lowercase, yeah. That I can use to represent my performance or the value, to represent the value I helped the team deliver.
The team
deliver. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty similar to what I've done. I usually like keeping it short because if it's long, they might be like, I don't have time for that, and then we go and they forget.
That's great. Yep. And then sign off, best regards, Harry.
Yeah.
And then the title would be KPIs or OKRs that I could include on my resume. Yeah.
You might want to even just say KPIs, OKRs, or even just estimates of values.
Okay, or estimates of value, right? KPIs or OKRs, KPIs, comma, so KPIs, comma, OKRs, or estimates of value.
I would probably put that down there or in the down here as well.
Yeah, include it there too. Yeah, KPIs, comma, OKRs, or estimates of value. That I can use to represent. That we don't use value twice here. The estimates of value that I can use to present the like impact instead of value. Maybe just say impact. From the summer until now. I helped the team deliver from the summer until now. There you go. I happen to know this guy, Brett, is fairly nice. I've seen some of his emails to you, Harry, so I think he's going to be very helpful here. Good. Now you can enter in your boss's email address and press send. There you go. Good. So this will be pretty helpful because if we're that's the first place to start is every bullet point when you get the resume in its final form is by itself its own accomplishment story. So there would be a story, like in a great resume, each bullet point would be what we call an accomplishment statement in the results by action taken format. And then that would actually be shorthand for a whole story that you could tell about how you deliver value in some way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the first way that you can improve this resume is to have only content on there where you are absolutely sure there's a story behind it or you understand it. So good job getting what you could on this current resume, like getting that bullet point from the job description onto the resume in the current form. That's really good because then that just prompts us to, go through this cycle one more time and clarify things. And as a result, we were able to get this email sent, which is great. What else, Kyle?
So I'm trying to, yeah, last year. I don't know. I would say, yeah, let's finish the resume, probably a couple more revisions there. And then, I don't know if y'all done like cover letters. Probably worth doing a little bit.
Yes. I also have issue on writing cover letters. So maybe, yeah, we can schedule another meeting.
Yeah, you just say like, get the resume good first, then the cover letter, and then there's literally nothing stopping you at that point. Yeah.
That's right. Like if I can't get my resume done, I cannot apply for any.
Something I usually like to remind people though for cover letters. I'm sure Stuart has a great one, like a format for that. One thing I usually recommend is the point of the cover letter is to help them do their job. So they have a problem, they want to hire someone to solve that problem. And they made this job description as saying like, this is the ideal candidate that would help me solve my problem. And so the point of the cover letter is to match your resume to that problem that they have, and then make that connection in the hiring manager's mind that this person is able to help me solve my problem. Hiring them is good for me, so I want to do that. You don't want it to focus on what's good for you, because the hiring manager just doesn't care. They've got a bunch of people that are all saying, hey, I want this, it's great for me. And it's like, yeah, I can only help out one person. It's great for all of y'all, but I want to know what's great for me about hiring you. So try and focus it on more of that employer's benefit and less on your.
Yeah, and that's what we do, Harry, with the RCC chart. So the cover letter format that we use here in the Career Accelerator program covers that nicely. So as long as you're using the formats that we've used before, I think we've prepared some cover letters before, right?
No, we don't.
We never did? Okay.
No, we didn't.
Okay. Well, there are several cover letters on the Facebook group as files. If you ever wanted to check those out, that'd be a good place to start.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So since I think the career fair is gonna be tomorrow, so what should I since I won't meet my boss this afternoon or today, so what should I just use the resume that I'm having right now?
More or less, I mean, what I'm going to recommend is after this call, I go through, I take a copy of your resume and I just do some revisions of it, because it's doing some things somehow that current format, I think is different than the one that I would recommend. For example, I would just have one section entitled experience, and I wouldn't try to divide it between internships and other. So there's a couple things in there that I'm gonna go through and change, including some of the ways that you write your bullet points, such as there are articles of speech such as the and or a in your bullet points, which need to be removed, because we just need to use this more shorthand way of writing things. There's opportunities to feature your results earlier in your bullet points, such as that go decision to invest $700,000. That's an outcome of one of your consulting projects that goes first in that bullet point in your work as a consultant with the Iacocca Institute. So there are things there that need to be changed already that I can just go ahead and change. And then in terms of having KPIs and things like that, you might not have those in time for this current job fair, but we can make some steps towards improving your resume substantially so that you'll have something better for tomorrow.
Yes, that makes sense to me.
Okay, to get going.
Yeah.
Any other questions you have?
Yeah, Kyle's got to go. So any last questions for him? And if not, well, it's okay.
No, I don't have any questions for now. So yeah, we'll
Yeah,
we'll revise the resume, and yeah, so and then maybe we can schedule for another call
yeah, sounds great.
next week, probably.
Yep, that sounds very good. I will, in the meantime, I will send you over a new draft of your resume. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get off this call too, Harry, because I have a 3 o'clock call. Just letting Kyle needs.
Oh.
Kyle, have a great rest of your day. I know you got some stuff going on, so please feel free to bow out. I will, Harry, I will work on your resume, and I will give you another draft sometime this evening. And then I'll also include a template of a cover letter. What matters with the cover letters, what's most important is that they reflect the language of the job description. So if I go in, I'll share my screen here for a second. If I just go here and find cover letter.
Now I know why I haven't heard anything back from the roles I applied so far.
Is that right? Is that the case?
Probably. I mean, because yeah, there are many things that need to be improved
Yeah.
on my resume.
Yeah. I think so. I'm glad we're doing this. And it's not too late. Let me
And,
find.
one more thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so remember last Friday I was going to meet Matt. So he pushed that meeting to this Friday because he had a meeting that time.
I don't entirely remember that.
Matthew Kirshner. Uh,
I,
and you recommended me in the workshop. You recommend me. You suggested me to
yeah. Okay. Now I kind of remember
do the
it.
one pager. You know.
That's right. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Please continue. What about Matt?
Oh yeah, just saying that the meeting was pushed to this Friday
Ah. Okay.
because you wanted me to update you the yeah the content of the meeting.
Yes. Okay. So let me just send you a link here.
And yeah, for the job I just showed you, remember the data analyst role
Hmm.
with S&P Global?
Uh-huh.
I think it says US applicants only.
I saw that as well. I saw that at the bottom. Yes.
Yeah, that's not good.
Well, I mean, I think how I would play it is like this. There is valuable information in the handshake postings or job postings. It tells you in some general way who's hiring. And then the job is to reach out to the head of the teams in those organizations and network with them. So if it's S&P Global and there's an analyst role for that team, you would want to reach out to that. You don't want to identify the head of that team and reach out to them for networking. That would be a way in which you could get around the sponsorship issue. So the sponsorship issue is going to be something where it becomes part of someone's job to enforce that policy. So HR here is not your friend because it's their job to enforce that particular kind of policy. They don't want these international student profiles to reach their bosses because that's their job is to keep them out. Your job is to still reach out to those bosses and get to know them and get them to like you so that they want to hire you. So in those situations where it does say that, your work is no different. I mean, even if the work would be the same, even if it said we sponsor international students, it's really no different. It's just there's just so few people who know the art of networking or even try to learn or try to do it that when you do network, you have such great advantage over other people. So that is worth thinking about. I just sent you a link. If you look at the chat,
Uh-huh.
there is a doc there, a link to a Google Doc. That is the worksheet on how to prepare a cover letter. That will explain what to do there.
Mhm.
And I can also set you up with some other, I might have some other trainings, but that's a good place to start. So in this document here, we talk about, I'll share my screen.
Perhaps I can schedule for another call. Because I recently I just applied for a role at Credit Suisse, and I have the cover letter with. So I have that cover letter. So maybe we can have a look at it
Yep,
since
sure.
I can still adjust the submission
Okay.
on the website.
Yeah, let me find the link to use for that. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Let me go to give me 1 second. So
Yeah.
no problem. Let's just do,
Going back to what
you can use this link to schedule a time to do cover letters. And I'm going to make it, definitely worth your while to set up these times, because I'm not going to work with you just for an hour or whatever. We'll make sure that you have a proper cover letter done by the end of this, and you can replicate it many times over. So there's the link to set up a time to review cover letters with me. Use the same discount link and so on. And then for the job fair tomorrow, you have a job fair tomorrow?
yes, it's virtual.
It's a virtual job fair. Okay. So just couple quick tips. Do your research before the job fair, find out who's coming, who's interesting to you. And then if you can, log on to their portal in advance to see if you can get in and see how it works. A lot of times what happens in these virtual job fairs is that recruiters have their time slots that you can book. So you can book. So what I want you to do is know, before you get into the virtual career fair, know which companies that you want to talk to, and then immediately go into their scheduling systems and try to get a time.
Oh, I think Brett, yes, you're right. Oh, Brett just replied my message.
Okay, you want to share your screen?
Yes.
If you like, yeah. I would start with the things you did this summer. There will be more as we continue into this. Major products, cable unwired, developed methodology and data strategy to enable scaling of this business and more accurately measure advertising impressions. Okay. Okay. Master tables, assisting on creating strategy to build master tables so Active can look at data across all data systems and have a holistic view of vendors, enabling executives to understand total revenue footprint from each client vendor across the enterprise. Right. Okay. Yeah. So these are pretty good. These will help you. So my next question would be develop methodology and data strategy to enable scaling of this business to a projected what? To a projected scaling what percent? 50%?
Yes.
Scaling 10%?
Maybe I should schedule a call with him and ask, well, what might be the possible result.
Yeah. And you may need
Project.
to, yeah, exactly. And then, yeah, this is great. I mean, he's happy to chat further. So, you've got a good, helpful person here who's happy to guide you further.
Yes, going back to the sponsorship or not, I think you're right. Since at Active, I think this summer, like we had a lunch. I had a lunch with like all the internships, like once like only I think there's only one international who's me in that firm. So that means probably they don't sponsor either, but Brett,
Well, they may or may not.
I know Brett.
I mean, it's a couple things like who is going to end up in these internships. It's going to be by nature people who are willing to reach out, communicate, get rejected occasionally, and in this, and people who are going to be the least comfortable doing that are going to be international students because they're new to the culture. So just naturally, you're going to have more American domestic students potentially showing up to a job like that. So I don't think it's it may not reflect anything about their actual policy. It just may be that, the people that know about or hear about Active International are mostly domestic US students. They're not necessarily known by a lot of international students, maybe. So it could be a whole bunch of things, but may not be anything about their policy.
Yes,
comment.
Yeah. So just one more thing.
Yeah.
Maybe. So this morning, my classmate, he's also an international student. Yeah, he's from Taiwan. He said to me, "Oh, I've applied to like 30-ish like roles, but I've never heard anything back. So I'm a little worried about
Yeah.
what if." that's the case, because that's exactly what I had
Well, yeah,
last year this time.
don't let applying online be your strategy. I mean, if anything, don't let that be your strategy. Be the person that is setting up conversations with others. And apply online can stimulate conversations. I mean, you can use the application event, like, okay, I've applied here, as the stimulus to go now reach out to people and find out who they are and reach out to them. But the main number here isn't I've applied to X number of jobs. The main number is I've talked to X number of people. And so that's why your friend from Taiwan is expressing this frustration, is because he or she is just on the wrong track. They're looking at the wrong numbers. And I also want you to avoid that. I don't want you to look at the wrong numbers either. So I got to run to my meeting. I will,
Yes.
so I will talk to you. I will send you another email tonight. I'll give you an updated resume for you to work tomorrow, and I will make it in PDF and Word format. Okay.
Sounds good.
Right
Thank
on.
you, Stuart.
Good job on taking steps here. Talk to you later. Yep. See you, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.